Welcome to EPG Pathshala. Today we are going to discuss one more module under the paper Art and Architecture in India. And the present discourse or module is Architecture of the Mughal period, specifically of the early Mughal period during the time of Akbar and Jahangir. Let me introduce myself before going delve into this matter. Myself is Dr. Shutaba Sinha. I am from Department of Islamic History and Culture, University of Calcutta. And the learning objectives of this present module are Introduction to the Mughal architecture of 16th and 17th century, architecture of the Mughals under Akbar and its salient features, important monuments of both religious and secular type under the rule of Akbar, fort and city architecture like Fatehpur Sikri, architecture of Jahangir's period. There are some additional and new features from Akbar's period, and important monuments of the period and their salient features. And of course, the summary of the present module. As we have discussed in our earlier two modules under this section, one was a Sultanate architecture of Delhi and other was three regional architecture of India, which established the idiom and the new genre of Indo-Islamic architecture in India. With the advent of the Mughal, we are entering into a new and different phase of the Indo-Islamic architecture in India, which has broadly been divided into two phases of the Mughal period. So, an universal style of Islamic architecture emerged during the rule of the Mughals. The Mughal monuments have certain distinctly common features like imposing facades, four-centered arches, and semi-domed high alcoves, shouldered roofs, walls of intersecting arches, bulbous domes with constricted necks, and inverted lotus. In fact, formation of Mughal architecture did not take place until the reign of Akbar in 1556, though we know that the Mughal rule was established during the time of Babur and in 1526 after the first battle of Panipat. During the short rule of Babur and his son Humayun, mentions of a very few monument can be made, like Baburi Mosque in Panipat, Jame Mosque at Sambhal, and Baburi Mosque in Ayodhya, Humayun's Mosque at Fatehabad, Haryana. But they do not represent any distinct architectural feature, rather they have followed the earlier Sayyid and Lodi style. Therefore, the Mughal architecture can broadly be divided into two phases. One is the early Mughal period, that is from 1556 to 1628, and the second is the late Mughal period, including the later Mughals, that is from 1628 to 1858. Now we are coming to discuss the first phase, that is the early Mughal style, which started in 1556 during the time of Akbar. So we will start with the first monument, which was actually built in a real Mughal style known as Humayun's tomb. And it is a very famous architecture which was built by the widow of Humayun, Bega Begum. The plan of the tomb indicates strong Central Asian influence. The plan of its interior is also very different. Foreign influence seen in the treatment and shape of the central double dome took place for the first time. Indigenous elements like elegant finials and Lodi type corner kiosk on the slender pillars also came into existence in this particular tomb architecture. White and grey marble inlay on red sandstone is a very typical feature of this Humayun tomb. A very few decorative designs and are also a common feature or typical feature of these Mughal monuments. Now we are coming to have a look of another tomb architecture which was built in 1566-67, and it is known as tomb of Ataga Khan. Ataga Khan was the foster father of Akbar. It is very similar in design to Humayun's tomb, and it was again constructed of much smaller dimension. Though the inlay work of multi-domed marble is very beautiful and elegant, the low relief carving of its facade are richer than Humayun's tomb. Now we are coming directly to the architectural activity which took place under the patronage of the great emperor Akbar. Akbar's building projects are many in number and they were very varied in character also. He was a great patron of architecture and he constructed a large number of buildings in different parts of the country within his kingdom. And we may mention about the most famous building activities where we can mention about Agra, Fatehpur Sikri, Lahore, Allahabad, Rohtasgarh and elsewhere. Buildings are mostly constructed of red sandstone with limited use of white marble. He was endowed with a very liberal outlook, and Akbar had Catholicity of his taste. So he patronized indigenous building traditions with a forceful architectural style. His style was marked by judicious mixture of purely indigenous and also foreign forms. Especially the central theme was use of the arcuate system. It's specially employed the arcuate system of architecture. Arcuate forms were also adopted, but mainly decorative for decorative purposes. The great architectural activity, building activity during the time of Akbar, we should first mention about the Agra Fort, the Red Fort or Red Fort of Agra as we say. It is the first major building project of Akbar on the bank of Remuna River. This fort is very irregularly semicircular in plan. It has massive walls which are made of concrete and rubble inside but faced with dressed red sandstone. And we should also mention that the entire fort wall is guarded by the moat running parallel to it. The principal gate of the entrance on the western part is known as Delhi Gate. It is a huge imposing structure consisting of arched gateway placed between two massive octagonal bastion-like architecture or structure. The whole structure of Delhi Gate is architecturally a noble and dignified monument, which is also decorated on its outer face by glazed tiles and pietre dura work to some extent. We also have several other gateways in this Agra Fort or Red Fort, and we may also mention about the Amber Singh Gate, which through which people generally enter into this fortified complex. The Delhi Gate is of course very unique and it represents a very notable feature of a gateway of a fort. Most of the extant buildings within this Red Fort area were built during the time, which are extant today, were built during the time of the Shah Jahan. But the only building of Akbar's time within this fort is Jahangiri Mahal. It is a large square palace built of red sandstone in the usual palace plan. A double-storied chambers building with an open courtyard specially identify this Jahangiri Mahal. It is built in Trabeate style except a few arches appearing here and there. Akbar actually had several capital cities. His first capital was in Agra, then he shifted to Fatehpur Sikri. Fatehpur Sikri is very close to Agra, around 35 kilometers west of Agra city, and the most spectacular building activities of Akbar's reign took place at this place. A large number of impressive buildings were constructed during 1569 and 71. It enjoyed the status of capital city till 1585. After that, Akbar abandoned it due to a campaign in Punjab in 1585. So actually only for 15 years Fatehpur Sikri remained as a capital city of Akbar, and Fatehpur Sikri was finally abandoned completely in 1610. All buildings at Fatehpur Sikri are built of red sandstone, be it residential, official and religious purpose. The residential buildings of Fatehpur Sikri are very important and notable in feature. We may mention about several residential buildings like Panch Mahal, the Palace of Jodhbai, the houses of Mariam, Turkish Sultana's palace, Birbal's house, Khwabga of Akbar. All of them are of varying sizes and designs. These palaces are for the most part built in the trabeate style, still with the Lodi type domes and heavy eaves supported by finely carved brackets of Gujarat Rajasthan style we can find in Fatehpur Sikri. Occasional arches with bird fringe and superbly carved surfaces enrich the buildings of Fatehpur Sikri. So this is the most spectacular residential building within the Fatehpur Sikri palace complex, and it is the notable feature of a secular architecture. It is also very famous for its plan and elevation. It is actually a 5-storied building with open pillars arranged in a pyramidal fashion with pillars of varying sizes and decorated carvings. We have several other buildings or the residential buildings within this complex. Another one is the Palace of Jodhbai. It is complete in design and arrangement. It provides a fine example of building meant for royal residence. Its exterior is almost plain in sharp contrast with its interior, which is very decorated. It is famous for its rich carvings of the pillars, balconies, perforated stone windows and ornamental niches. Many of the structural elements and motifs of decoration executed in the indigenous style in Jodhabai's palace. All these features made this palace an architectural character of its own. Now we can have a look at the Jodhabai's palace. On the left top is the Jodhabai's palace facade, and the right bottom is the interior of the facade, which has got a blue, turquoise blue tiled rooftop. Now then another building, residential building in this particular complex is Mariam's house and of Turkish Sultana's house, which are much smaller and simpler than Jodhabai's palace. These two are very remarkable for their workmanship of a high order. Mariam's house is a small block of building consisting of a room having veranda on 3 sides. On the south side is a set of 3 rooms. Some portions of its exterior and interior were originally embellished by large mural paintings, traces of which may still even seen. You can see this is the exterior or the exterior view of the Mariam's palace, and we can also find the traces, very light traces of wall painting or murals inside the palace. The next one is Turkish Sultana's house, which is a small 1-storied building of red sandstone. It is remarkable for the picturesque environment of paved courts and watercourses. It is also very notable for profusely carved decorations of a rich variety and intricate workmanship. Ferguson was inclined to rank it as the richest, most beautiful and most characteristic building among all Akbar's building activity. Here we can see the Turkish Sultana's house, which has a sloping roof along with the railed parapet, and on the top above is the intricate design of a tree and leaves inside this palace or this house, and you may notice that the design is just from the floor level, so it was meant for the people who used to sit on the floor inside this particular palace. Now we are talking about the house of Birbal, another important feature or important building in this complex, which is a double-storied building remarkable for its design carved on the upper floor. Two shoulder roofed rooms alternating with open terraces and have been placed diagonally. Khwabga of Akbar, which is overlooking actually the only talao or the tank within this palace complex, known as Anup Talao or Kapur Talao, as Shah Jahan called it. So this is the Khwabga or the residential palace, private residential palace of residential area of Akbar, the emperor himself. Now we are coming to the other buildings which are specifically official in character, which is called Diwan-e-Khas or the Hall of Private Audience, and it's a huge building of 2-story, and with its interior having a very delicately and ornamented galleries and a central pillar which is supported by the brackets, and it consists a single chamber with overhanging galleries projecting from the side. In the center there is an exquisitely carved single pillar of substantial size. The expanding bracket capital supports a circular stone platform and connected with the galleries at the 4 corners through narrow diagonal passages. Here we can find this centrally located pillar which is actually connected with the side galleries and having heavily carved brackets, which is beautiful. Another official building is Diwaniyam, where from where Akbar used to give his darshan to his subjects. The other building we can find is Daulat Khana, and adjacent to it is the astrologer's desk. And this astrologer's desk is a very small little kiosk having a serpentine bracket which is heavily carved. We can see another very plain building in look which is called Daftar Khana at the back of the palace complex, which have got double pillared support. Now we are coming to the religious architecture which was built in Fatehpur Sikri and its world famous architectures so far as the Mughal architecture of India is concerned. And among these religious buildings of Sikri, the most impressive one is the Jami Mosque, which was built during 1571-72. With its lofty gateway on the south, it has got 2 other gateways on the east and the north, but the south one is called Buland Darwaza. The tomb of famous Sufi saint Salim Chishti placed within its open courtyard. This Jami Mosque was constructed partially in the Akwat style and partially in the trabeated style. It belongs to the usual open courtyard mosque type, having surrounded on its 3 sides by cloisters, baranda. It is purely Islamic in design, and some of the structural forms and methods constructed of its side wings of prayer hall were built in trabeated form. Here we can have a look at the facade of the Jami Mosque, which is following the Tughlaq style of pylon, pro-pylon, having 2 other tombs on the covering the side wings, and having small kiosk on the top of the small kiosk on the top of the facade as well as on the rooftop. That is a very typical or peculiar feature of the architecture in Fatehpur Sikri and in other places during Akbar's time. We can have a look of the ceiling of the Jami Mosque, which is elaborately painted. We can have pietre dura work or placing the semi-precious stones on red sandstone, etc., etc. Now we are talking about the gateway, the Buland Darwaza, which is placed on the south of this south entrance of this mosque. It is very impressive and predominantly Persian in character. The pendentives of intersecting arches used in its semi-dome. It was built in the form of a semi-octagon projecting beyond the compound wall of the mosque. Buland Darwaza is regarded as one of the most perfect architectural achievements in India. So this is the Buland Darwaza, which is placed high atop from the surface level. Actually, the entire mosque is placed on a high plinth, which is accessible by a flight of stairs, and you can have a look of the detail of the inscriptions which have bordered the spandrels and the arched gateway entrance. And at the top of the entrance gateway, we can find a series of small kiosks and which are covered by the white marble. Another religious architecture within this Jami Mosque is the famous Sufi saint Selim Chisti's Dargah, or the tomb of Selim Chisti, which is a very small building compared to the Buland Darwaza and Jami Mosque, but it is very beautiful and completely made of white marble. Standing on a white marble platform, which is not at all high from the adjacent ground, the tomb chamber is surrounded by a veranda, and it is covered by a series of very intricately carved marble jali work, or the traceries. Here it is, the white marble Dargah of Selim Chishti, and you can have a look of the entire structure, which is square in form, and its veranda is covered by the marble jali, or the traceries, and brackets, heavily supported brackets are there, which are serpentine and convoluted in nature, and it's a very rare design of an exquisite carving. So, and this is the reminiscent of the brackets in Shahjadi's tomb at Chanderi in Madhya Pradesh, and yet they are very much finer than the Shahjadi's tomb in case of Shah Sufi's Dargah. Have a look of the detail of the serpentine convoluted brackets and the marble jali work, or the traceries. Now we can talk about the tomb architecture which were built during the time of Akbar. The style of the tomb architecture that was practiced during this reign of Akbar or his successors Jahangir is very similar to that of Akbar. It appears to lose some of the strength and virility of the latter style, that is of Akbar style. The first monument to be mentioned constructed during Jahangir's time is the tomb of Akbar, which is at Sekendra near Agra, which was constructed in 1612-13. We can also mention about tomb of Itmat-ud-Dawla, which is also at Agra and built by Nur Jahan in memory of her father. The most remarkable feature of Akbar's tomb in its unusual form and design, and it is situated in the middle of a spacious and elaborately laid out garden of charbagh pattern. It is entered through an imposing gateway on the south, which is of sufficient architectural merit. There are two other entrance gateways on the north and west, but the real gateway is on south, and which is especially impressive because of its pleasing proportions, profuse ornamentations in inlay work, and four graceful white marble minarets. So this is the gateway, the southern gateway to the tomb of Akbar at Sekendra, and you can see the facade of the gateway is exquisitely carved by inlay work, that is the pietre dura work, and it has got four minar at the four corners of it, and which are absolutely cased by the white marble. And now we can look at the main building of the tomb of Akbar, which is a very nice building of pyramidal shape. It has also got, it is mainly built by red sandstone, but have the facade with white marble inlay work, and on the top, it is actually a 5-storied building, and on the top of the building you can see the white marble squared chamber. The tomb proper is 5-storied in shape and of a truncated, it is the shape of a truncated pyramid. The ground story consists of a massive terrace. Each of its 4 sides has shallow arches except in the middle. An alcove or vaulted archway is set within a rectangular frame crowned by a graceful marble kiosk. The upper intervening ones contain a number of red sandstone kiosks. The 5th story comprises an open court enclosed by a flat-roofed arcaded gallery. the outer arches of which are filled with delicately perforated white marble screens, as we also see in case of Selim Chisti's Dargah, and it is a very tall and graceful kiosk having on the four sides of it. As we have mentioned earlier, the tomb was built by Nur Jahan in memory of his father Itmat ad-Dawla, which is also situated in Agra, few kilometers from Taj Mahal, and the entire building is made of white marble, though the gateway to Itmat ad-Dawla is of red sandstone, which is quite similar to that of Sikandra, having a plaster inlay work of white marbles on the facade, but unlike Sikandra, it does not have the four minars at corner, rather it has got two kiosks at the top of the gateway. So far as the architecture of the Itmat ad-Dawla's tomb is concerned, it is not perfect, and according to some, the tomb is superb in effect on account of the originality of its conception and scheme of decoration, which actually consists chiefly of exquisite carvings, artistic paintings in gold and colors, tile decoration and pleasing inlay work in geometric and floral designs. These are the inlay, profusely carved inlay work on white marble. Look at the tile with marble of different colors at the floor and around the sarcophagus of Itmat ad-Dawla, and also the very nicely carved plaster work at the top of the ceiling of this building of Itmat ad-Dawla. Another tomb of this period is tomb of Abdur Rahim Khani Khanan. It is interesting as it constitutes a significant link between the tomb of Humayun and the Taj Mahal. Now standing devastated its white marble facing, it largely resembles the former, that is tomb of Humayun, but the angles of its large single chamber, square in plan, internally and externally, are not flattened. So this is tomb of Abdur Rahim Khani Khanan, which is now in much ruinous state, and most of the surface decoration is now has now disappeared, but you may find that this is a link between tomb of Humayun and the Taj Mahal. Last but not least is the Mausoleum of Jahangir, which is another monument belonging to this period, and this Mausoleum of Jahangir himself at Shahdara near Lahore, it is almost like the tomb of Akbar in Sikandra, but in the center of a large garden, and is a square single-storied structure standing on a low plinth. Each of its four sides consists of 11 arches, of which the central one forms the entrance, while the four corners rise lofty and handsome octagonal minarets in 5 stages. With the disappearance of the marble pavilion that occupied the central portion of its roof terrace, the building has lost its symmetry of composition. The rich surface decoration of marble inlay, glazed tile and painting are its main ornamental features. So this is Mausoleum of Jahangir, and you may find that the corner minarets are in 5 stages, are very prominent, but the building is only of 1 story and it has lost its symmetry. Some other palace architecture of this period to be mentioned is the palace complex at Rohtasgarh in Sahabad district of Bihar, with its principal entrance called Hatiapol or Elephant Gate forming its most decorative part. Various buildings of this complex, such as Baradari, that is the offices, Darbar or audience hall, Shish Mahal, Phul Mahal, Najghar, represent the same virile and forceful architectural style that had been initiated in Akbar's building at Fatehpur Sikri and elsewhere. This is the huge fort of Rohtasgarh, and within this fort we can find the above mentioned architectural buildings. So in sum, we may say that with the advent of the Mughals, we have seen a new era in case of Indo-Islamic architecture, which is which has of course followed the tradition of its earlier Sultanate period, but it has also introduced several new features which are mostly Persian in character and which are more delicately carved and embellished with different technique. A very special technique of this period of surface carving has come into existence, that is known as inlay work or the pietre dura, which also we find the extensive use of pietre dura work in the later phase when Shah Jahan built Taj Mahal, but it was initiated in Itmat ad-Dawla during the Jahangir's time. So as a whole, the first phase of Mughal architecture of course incorporated several new characteristic features and as so far as the building activity is concerned, and which will be continued by their successors in later Mughal period. Thank you very much, and for any further reading and references you may go to the e-text page of this particular module in EPG Pathshala, and also for the reference you can have a look at the bibliography and the other references. Thank you.